Any moments that stand out from like a sporting side, and then I'll go to the other side.
Yeah, I had a really cool trip to LA. It was because of the college football playoffs. They wanted to shoot a video with college mascots inside of the Bachelor Mansion. So it was the day after Bedlam, and we had 15 mascots meet up in LA and filmed a final rose ceremony with 4 roses for the 4 football playoff spots. Yeah. So I got to meet a bunch of the different mascots in that way, and we're all part of this like group me on our phones, group text message. And there's like 900 mascots from around the U.S. in this group me. It's super crazy just scrolling through and seeing the different guys or whatever. I can't reveal any names.
Oh, of course, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, but sporting events were awesome. I think the most embarrassing thing that ever happened whenever I was Pete happened at a sporting event, and my family was there. We played Pittsburgh in the Steelers stadium, and Pete has this kind of like, everyone asks, does Pete do any flips? 45-pound head that doesn't strap on your shoulders, it would be a disaster. But we do this move where you lay the head down and you almost kick your feet up into a headstand. Okay. So I had done this headstand after a touchdown. Yeah. But I looked up and my family had gone to the concession stand and got popcorn. Of course. So I'm like, okay, on the next touchdown, I've got to do it. Yeah. Well, I did it again on a part of the field that was sloped for drainage, and my feet fell backwards. So I was in a scorpion, like. It looked like Pete could fit in a cardboard box. It was like one of those acts, but rolled over real fast, jumped up, and half the people in the stands were like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay, Pete?" Okay? Yeah. And then half of them were like, "Oh my gosh, that was awesome! Like, I can't believe he just did that. That was crazy."
He just kind of shrugged it off. I was like, "Yeah, I totally meant to do that."
Yeah, the only people that got a photo was my dad, because I told him I was going to do it during the game, and he actually got a photo whenever I put the head down. So it's like a time lapse of like me falling into this scorpion yoga position as Pete.
That is brilliant. You mentioned Bedlam. What was Bedlam like, and then what was the Texas game like?
Bedlam was rough, but honestly, the coolest game I got to go to was in Norman for Bedlam, my second year as Pete. We had a shootout of high scoring game, lost by 2-point conversion, but I had a lot of fun just like being there and it being a great game, and like one of those games that really determined if OU was going to make the playoffs or whatever. And I remember walking in between the student section for OU and our players' bench and how close it was. I mean, probably the width of my counter here. And it was some guys grabbing the Pete head and stuff. And I had saw somebody's debit card. The guy that grabbed my head, his debit card was literally sitting there. So I grabbed it and I was like this until he let the head go or whatever, just kind of messing with playing people, around, like no harm, no foul, but it was super fun. Rivalries, I mean, they're great.
Yeah. Was the Texas game good as well?
I had my aunt fly in from Ohio for that game. Okay. And we won. It was homecoming, and we won on the last drive, I believe. And my aunt in her 50s jumped over and stormed the field.
That's amazing.
Dude, it was awesome. She had a great time. I mean, people storming the field. I was like, caught her, and she stormed the field, and it was great.
So tell me about the appearances. Like, obviously, you being Pete and going and seeing the kids and all. I mean, like you said, some Pete's have gone to funerals, like what that means. And that I'm sure is like the fulfilling side of it. It's great to go out in the stadium and have 80,000+ fans screaming at you, but seeing what it does to people when you show up, right, as a surprise, that must have been really cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I'll never remember the exact scores of those football games that I go to, but one event that really sticks out was a trip that I did to Skiatook, Oklahoma. I got a text message from someone that her grandpa was going into hospice in a couple days, and gave me a list of 3 days and said, can you come out and make a home visit to him before he goes into hospice? And the 2 days that were furthest away from that day I got the text message, I already had events. So I picked the day that was closest, which was the next day. So I drove out the next day, And I went into the house, and that was another event where I hit my head because the ceilings were, it never ends. Like, no matter how much experience. Oh, the head fits through the doorway, but it's standing up and you forget, and then you put a hole in the ceiling. But went into the house, guy was watching TV, their grandpa was watching TV, and, you know, you could just tell that, like, it was kind of a low, like, mood and pretty rough day. And then some kids came out of the bedroom and yelled, Pistol Pete's here, you know? And we had all gone outside and took some family photos. And in the middle of the photos, he said this was the last year he'd be watching football, you know, from here. And he'd, you know, be watching it from above in the future years. But that was one of the moments I was glad I had a mask on, you know, a head on. Kind of emotional. But after the photos, after the kids went inside, we were in the yard, and I just took all my stuff off and put it away, and just talked to him about how him and his wife met at OSU, and how OSU had this huge, like, impact on his life. And I spent, you know, 30 minutes just talking to him about his life, which was super awesome. It was, you know, events like that in children's hospitals and the weddings and those important days in people's lives that, you know, I'm going to remember those events forever. And turns out that Pete's had kind of a spirit reunion a couple of months later, and I was told that the man that I'd seen passed away the next morning. So crazy how that timing worked again, you know, right? Like, I went and saw him, and to be honest, you know, if I had another day open, there's a chance I would have went a different day and wouldn't have gotten to have that experience with him and be able to hear his story and stuff, which is that's the coolest part.